Hey, wouldn't it be nice if you could, with HTML5, update the output values of the form instantly? So if you have a number with one value and you want to subtract it from the other value and have the output displayed to the user within the form. So that's what we're going to be covering in this lesson. So first off, let's go ahead and set up the form tags. And within the form tags, let's create a few inputs, and setting these inputs as type of number. So make sure that you also are specifying the doc type as HTML, so that this indicates to the browser that it can be expecting or should be expecting HTML5 content, because this is new with HTML5. And with the different types, so you don't have to put quotes around it. You can do double, single quotes, or no quotes. So in this case, I'm going to use the double quotes for the number to identify the type. And then we also need to assign a value. So if we want to set an ID value of X in order to identify this value, and let's also start by setting a default value of 100 for the input type. And for the number input types, you can set, so you can't set a max length like you can with text types, but you can set a minimum and a maximum value. So if you set a minimum value and you want your minimum value to be 0 and your maximum value to be 100, you can set those parameters. So let's go out and look at the way the form looks. So we can't update it to larger than 100, and of course we can actually enter in a larger number, but as soon as we click off of it, and if we go up or down, it's going to automatically default to the max. So this is different than what you get with text inputs. So if we use a text input, we have an option for a max length. So this is the maximum length of characters that are allowed within that input. So let's do a quick refresh, and this one has a maximum length of 3 characters, so we can't type more than 3 characters into that field. Whereas with the inputs, the number inputs, it's only these that are controlled with the maximum and minimum. So just to keep that in mind, and I often do get questions about how we can set a max length on the number, and the actuality is this attribute won't work on the number. So even if I was to add that in, I can still add in more numbers, although the width of the field is updated according to what the max length is, so, or the max value is. So the max length attribute does not work on numbers. Let's set another number, and then I'll show you how you can have that dynamic output. So let's identify this as Y. And we can set the same parameters where the default value is 100, minimum is 0, and max is 100. So if we want to set that, and if we want to do some math here, that we're setting, and we want to have a value of output. So using the output tag, let's identify this as a value, and just giving it a name so that we can reference it. And then the two fields that we're going to be using within the formula for A, B, so that it ties it back to those two inputs that we're using. And actually this should be X and Y. So identifying them by the IDs. So let's try that. And right now we don't see anything happening. So we want the output to be adjusting as we're adjusting the values on the input types. And that's where we have to add an event listener. So let's add the on input event listener. And so this event listener will fire off as soon as we have the input on input value getting triggered. So setting the value val, and that's going to be referring to the value for the output. So right now that's not doing anything. If I select the X val, let's do a refresh on that. And if I update it, we still don't have anything happening. So what we want to do is we want to create the on input formula by assigning a value of val. So if we take val value, and if we equal it to X value, watch what happens now. So now we're equaling the output value to whatever the x value is. So that's one way how we can have the output for the user, but we want to do the full formula where we're subtracting y from x. And the way to do that is we can just do a subtraction, and now we can select the y value as well. So do an update to it. And this way we're getting 95 minus 92, and it's equaling to whatever the value of 3 is. So try it out and add in the way to output content from the user form using the onInput event listener.